Wargaming are releasing the newest Cold War tech tree line in World of Tanks console, and today's video is going to cover everything you need to know about these tanks that are coming into the game, along with all of the other update news that has been released for this week and the upcoming week on World of Tanks. So, without further ado, let's have a look at what these vehicles are, what they are, how they'll probably play in the game, and exactly the sort of other news that we have and the upcoming kind of updates that you can likely see. And let's do a full review of what we think about the release of the NM116 at the end of this video. So the first three vehicles that we have released for the Czechoslovakian Cold War vehicles are the TVP VTU, the Skoda T50, and the TVP T50-51. Now, all of these tanks are already within the game on World War II, so it's Wargaming's typical. Let's port in some tanks that we already have on the other game mode into the Cold War game mode or the new game mode. And then we'll have these tanks again. Of course, what Wargaming typically do is they introduce the kind of lower tier vehicles into Cold War so everyone can play them. And then what they do is eventually they'll kind of extend that line to meet some of the modern era tanks that you will see within that certain nation. They've done it with the British ones. They introduce things like the Centurion and the Carnarvon and all of those sort of tanks, and then they kind of buffed it right away out to the modern tanks being the Challenger and stuff like that. So it's always pretty interesting to see the way in which they'll go. I don't know some of the more common modern Czech equivalents of some of these tanks, so it'll be interesting to see if they even go that route. Maybe they'll just stick with the already within the game release. I don't know. But of course, if you know any more information on some actual real-life Czech tanks that are currently in circulation, leave them in the comment section down below, because I would actually be kind of interested in seeing what you have to say. The first vehicle that we have then is the TVP VTU, and this is one of probably the worst Tier 8 tanks in World War II, and that will probably translate over into Cold War. So this is post-war era, so you'll be playing up against things that are within the first era of Cold War, you know, primarily a lot of the Tier 8 to Tier 10 tanks that are in World War II. So it's going to play probably similarly to those. We've got the full characteristics of the vehicle. Looks like they've got 240 alpha damage. This is the fully upgraded version, so this is the top statistics of the vehicle. Of course, they'll be worse for any of the vehicle when it isn't fully upgraded, obviously. But you can see here gun depression 6 degrees, which isn't particularly amazing for a medium tank. It doesn't have armor, as you can see on the armor viewer. I think we've got a picture of it. It's basically paper, so that you'll get penned by everything. Penetration is fairly decent. I mean, you're going to be able to go through most things. 2-second aim time is okay. I mean, it's pretty good, but the .38 accuracy is pretty bad. And yeah, you've got 2,200 DPM, which is pretty mediocre, to be honest with you. But the key thing about this vehicle is the tanks that it leads on from. It is gonna be a grind to begin with. The Czech tanks were a bit of a grind all the way up to like Tier 9, at which point they got good. And of course, that kind of segues into the next bit. So you're going to have a trouble with this, but as soon as you unlock the next one, you'll probably be having a little bit of fun. And the next tank is the Skoda T50. This is a brilliant tank on World War II. I've done a full review of this tank not that long ago, and we've also done a full review of the top tier, the TVP T50-51 as well. So both of those you can find on the channel. If you just go back, you'll see them on the front, kind of a thumbnail image, the two tanks. So I absolutely love these, but the key thing about the Skoda T50 is we'll compare it to what it's actually like in the game currently, and I can give a bit of an overview. So they've stuck with the fully upgraded version being the 3-shot autoloader with 320 damage per shell. You've got 8 degrees gun depression, which is really nice. Power to weight ratio is fantastic, 26. You've got fairly okay hit points, but you know, you are middle tier kind of in the first era. So yeah, I don't know. I think it'll be okay. Intricate redo, 1.8 seconds, which is nice. The damage per minute is a bit sucky, to be honest, at 1,800. But yeah, it's effective DPM, so you should be able to get most of that out if you put yourself in the right position. 60 kilometers an hour, fantastic view range. Not that it matters all too much. It's good for spotting opponents on Cold War and getting some assistance damage, which is good for your marks, etc. But yeah, other than that, good rate accuracy, and typically with the Czechoslovakian tanks, they're fantastic on the move, so you can hit really well on the move. But yeah, we'll kind of we'll have to see how they actually play in the game. I probably don't think that they'll be as good as they are on the kind of World War II version, but they should be somewhat similar, and I definitely think that they'll be usable. And then you get the top tier vehicle within the post-war era. You know how it is. You basically get tier 1, 2, and 3 in the respective era. You know how it works. But yeah, there's the TVP T50 51, 4.38 million silver, which is funny because that's cheaper than what the tier 10 exact same tank is. But you know, don't really understand the pricing, to be honest, and having to actually re-grind tanks that you've already ground out in the other game mode, it's kind of annoying, but you know, it is what it is. It's a completely separate game mode, so that's probably why. We've also then got the actual statistics of this vehicle. The TVP T50 51 has indeed got 320 alpha damage. For some reason, they had 248 on your standard rounds. I believe that they basically missed the damage. They basically replaced how much damage you're dealing with the penetration of all of the rounds. But you can see 320 alpha damage as you'd expect. 4-shot autoloader, so you got 1280 total alpha damage with this vehicle. Alpha damage is the pure total kind of on average that you can hit with this vehicle if you penetrate every single shell. And of course, damage per minute being nearly 2,000. 33-second reload is pretty bad. You're going to be struggling when you're coming up against people. Of course, you can use the mobility of the tank, which is very good to kind of get away and put yourself in a more mobile position and use the view range. But if you look between the TVP T50 and the Skoda T50, you'll notice that the view range gets worse, the reload gets worse, although you do gain an extra shell. You know, your power to weight ratio gets worse, and tier for tier, you're probably better off playing the Skoda T50. But remember that they all play in the same game mode, or era, which means that basically if you can take the advantage of the TVP, then you probably should. But yeah, tier for tier, the kind of Skoda T50 would be the better vehicle, as you'd see on World War II if you decided to play that. So highly recommend you try these out on both versions. I would probably recommend getting them first on World War II because it is an amazing tank to play, and they can be super, super dominant. If you've seen some of the replays recently of the TVP, it was probably like 2 days ago, you can actually see this vehicle in action just being a monster, and you probably won't miss it with the Czech flag in the thumbnail. Now, post-war event, of course, you can see all of the extras that you can get if you do decide to actually get these vehicles straight away. As with pretty much any release of a new tech tree line in Cold War, or post-war as it is kind of known here, is that you can get an extra 25% silver bonus when playing the vehicle, or alternatively, when you destroy 2 or more vehicles when playing them. So you either destroy the vehicles that got released and you get 25% silver, or you can play the vehicles and destroy 2 enemies, regardless of what tank they're in. If you're playing in the TVP VTU, the Skoda T50 or the TVP, and that will basically give you an extra 25% silver. If, for example, you play in the Skoda T50, for example, and you destroy 2 tanks, one of them being another Skoda T50, you get 50% silver bonus because they do share together, because you can theoretically complete both operations at the same time. For example, if you got like 6 enemies destroyed and you destroyed 1 vehicle that we've just mentioned as well at the same time, you'd get them both, which is really, really good. So you can get up to 50% more silver. And also reinforcements post-war TVP, so if you play in this vehicle and you play a fairly decent amount and you destroy 75 or more vehicles, playing in any of them, you will get 500,000 silver, a day of premium, and 10 times 4 commander XP boost, which is pretty nice as well. So I highly recommend playing at the beginning, testing them out, seeing what you think. I don't think they'll be as good as they are on World War II, but it'll be interesting to see your guys' thoughts. If you do jump in and you're watching this in the future, then let me know what you think of these vehicles. If not, let me know what you think they're going to be like when they get released on Tuesday this week coming. So, without further ado, let's jump into the final changes that Wargaming have announced as well. So, there's a few things that Wargaming have given us. Of course, the content changes this week were that we got the return of Hellfire Pass, which is the new kind of map that was already a map, but they've kind of expanded it outwards, so it's much bigger. It used to be called Scorpion Pass for those of you that played it back in the day. They also released a load of new skins that you can see here if you want to. They basically were for the Kranvang. I think you may be able to still pick them up in the game if you want them. They're also for the Type 5. You can get them both together if you really wanted to. This is what they look like. Kind of cool, interesting to say the least. So yeah, if you want any of those, I would highly recommend buying them now because you never know when they'll come back on sale. And then the bundles, we've gone through them all of last week. So if you want to check out what the news is for this week, then I highly recommend you do that. But without further ado, we've also got the information for this week. So, map rotation changes that came on Tuesday we had, which were all covered within the previous video. There was a load of questions that were all covered. But for next week, we have, of course, got some extra things coming, and we can see these here. So, new this week, we had the NM116. This is a vehicle we'll talk about later on. We've also got the Earn Challenge that was also released for the Rheinmetall Scorpion. Did a full review of this vehicle. If you want to have a look at it, you can do. It was uploaded yesterday as of the recording and publishing of this, so you can take a look at that. Also the Deadbolt contract and a few other things, but upcoming, the TVP VTU, and the TVP 50, or the Skoda T50, and then we had the tanks reforged, and the Czech medium, the TVP T50 51, will be the next kind of on track / changed tank, and this is going to be really, really amazing because what they've done here as they've reinstated the TVP T50 51 back to what it was previously before it was nerfed back in the day. And that means that the clip rate or the intra-clip reload of the tank will go back to being 1.5 seconds. So between your shells, so 1, 2, 3, you will have 4.5 seconds total to deal 1280 alpha damage. So this is going to be amazing. They've also increased the ammo capacity of the TVP, so you can go from 48 to 64, so more carrying potential in this vehicle. And then we have the tier 9, the TVP 50, which will be getting slight improvement to the stock gun and the speed limit. The TVP VTU will receive multiple changes, both to the turret, new engine, and improved penetration and reload. So this is really, really good for those of you who have been grinding through the TVP, because it was a grind. Definitely didn't enjoy that one. And then the tier 7, the T34 100, which I actually thought was pretty decent. If you've played the T43, which is the Soviet version, essentially, the tier 7, it's similar to that. It's very much the same. You get a 100mm gun. It's pretty decent, but that will improve its kind of stock grind and stuff like that. So you can take a look at that and see what you think of it all. Of course, then we also have the Pirate Week, where you can basically get some pirate key cards if you really want them. I don't know whether anyone really does want those, but you can get the Jolly Roger 3D Pirate Commander, and you can earn op with a key card, a medal, and a Jolly Roger emblem as well. So these are effectively just playing through the game, going through a load of different kind of challenges. Once you complete them, you'll get a key card effectively, which will be nice. Of course, what you can see here is the miscellaneous, and this comes in the form of the shoutouts. They come with maximum damage dealt in a single battle. In the Panzerjäger was 8,500 damage. Yes, that's a tier 8 vehicle doing 8,500 damage, and that's by Rund8Y, or Rundy, I guess. So yeah, that is an amazing result, and it just showcases how strong this NM116 is in World War II, probably way too strong, and I'd like to see your opinions on it. Do you think it's overpowered? Me personally, I think it is terribly bad for tier 8. It is just way better. It's like a Hellcat at tier 8, but it doesn't have the turret traverse problems that the Hellcat has. The reverse speed isn't anywhere near as bad. It is kind of bad, but it's not that bad. It's quick, it has great camo, it has an amazing damage per minute. It is literally got everything that you need other than armor. It literally has the best in class for pretty much everything, bar penetration. Like, it's up there with the best tanks in the game in certain regards, but it has so many of them that this tank is just it's just outrageous, to be honest with you. It never should have been released in the game. Wargaming, hopefully, they should nerf it if it's for the gameplay reasons, but they probably won't, because what will happen is everyone complains because they've just spent a load of money, rightly so, on a tank because it was a specifically good, overpowered tank. If they then go and nerf it, it's really annoying to anyone that spent money, and so you should offer a refund, because at the end of the day, Wargaming are the ones that absolutely screwed up on creating this tank. In my personal opinion, I feel very strongly that this tank is OP. I feel like most players, maybe a brand new player to the game will find it very difficult because it doesn't have armor, and it's not particularly it's not nice for a new player because they'll just basically get penned by everything and get taken out super quickly. But in the flip side, a very good player is like almost unlimitedly capped by this vehicle because it just has everything. It has literally everything you need, and it is one of the best in class, if not the best in class, tank destroyer, if not medium tank in the game, because it's kind of like a hybrid. So that's my opinion. Of course, you all have your own opinions. I've seen them in the video. You can have a look at my video on the NM116. I didn't have a damage result close to this, but within a few games, I'd already noticed that this thing is ridiculous. And you probably have too if you're playing tier 8 at the moment and getting absolutely destroyed by this thing. Nonetheless, let me know in the comment section down below what you think of the vehicle. Now, without further ado, we've got the images of the tanks that are being released, the Skoda line, and of course the Jolly Roger Pirate Commander 3D. I mean, I don't know why Wargaming wastes their time on this stuff, because I feel like less and less people care about the anime characters that they keep releasing as kind of commanders and stuff. They should probably just work on creating new tanks and stuff like that. And it's not even like the majority of the audience is not the age at which they want to see this in the game. They'd much rather have someone historically accurate be released. So yeah, that's my own opinion. But nonetheless, we then got questions here. When designing maps, are you going to give other returning maps the same type of treatment you gave to Pearl River? So they're going to certainly have a conversation about how we can apply that to all of the maps. For example, Pilsen and Ghost Town, and how we tackle these and edit them in meaningful ways. Any news when the Lawgiver contract will come around? Sorry, this one's not currently in the schedule, so you're probably not going to get that anytime soon. Can we get Marks of Excellence added to the garage filter option? It's something we can look into, but we need to see if it's beneficial. I mean, the thing is, like, beneficial is a word that is probably not the best one to describe this. Like, it might not be beneficial to Wargaming to introduce a Marks of Excellence thing, but maybe people actually want to just see what vehicles they have marks on. If they want to play some that they haven't got any, they don't want to showcase tanks that they haven't. They want to just quickly find a tank that maybe they want to get 3 marks in and they only got 2. It's beneficial to the player. I don't get why Wargaming... Well, of course it's going to be beneficial, it's just what degree of kind of how useful it is for the majority of players. So what they should have really used there is definitely beneficial. Once double barrel tanks come, could you go back and add Marks of Excellence to other multi-barrel tanks? Yes, we do have a ticket to look at multi-barrel tanks, basically Marks of Excellence, so things like the M56 Ontos, which is a pretty decent tank in Cold War, and a weird one at that as well, but that doesn't have Marks of Excellence on the barrel. When will pink tanks be added to the game? Like, who is asking these questions, man? Like, what? Anyway, regardless, keep up the demand and we will think about it, but no current plans. Yeah, I don't even know. Why is there 6 lights per team in some games? The number of lights are not restricted, but it's something we will try and look into. Like, I mean, you may have just heard me sigh, but Wargaming keep faffing around with this matchmaker. Like, they do one change, it lasts for about a year, and then they're like, oh no, the matchmaker's broken, we need to change it, and then they revert back to something else, and then they end up going forward, and then they revert back, and then forward and back, and forward and back, and then you end up just being like, well, this was utterly pointless. So yeah, there should definitely be a cap on light tanks per team is what my opinion is on this, and they should hopefully do that. I don't know how bad this has been in World War II. I've not found it all too much like that bad, but there was definitely a terrible amount of light tanks when they released the light tank operation event thing that they did do. There's also, why can't we add bots to custom games? We do run these for our own playtesting, and it's something we have looked into to try and support, but ultimately ignored it due to running into issues trying to support it. So don't quite know what that means, but I guess that's what they'll be maybe doing at a later date, probably like a few years down the line. I don't think that they'll bother really researching into it that much. When will the next trade-in event be? Nothing scheduled, but we could look at this something for next month. I mean, the trade-in event's terrible. I don't get why people want it. It's only really there if you've already got the tank and they've released like a free tank like the Scorpion G, and then you can basically just trade in the Scorpion G for a discounted new premium and then get the Scorpion B straight back, or Scorpion G straight back. Yeah, I don't like the trade-in event at all. I think it's kind of a bit of a scam in terms of how much savings you're getting. But yeah. Why are newly released premiums always the best performers? Generally, the best players tend to buy these and set the bar early on. I completely agree. Usually, when someone first releases a premium, who has the money? It's usually the people, or who is willing to spend the money. It's usually the people that play the game. More veteran players are willing to actually spend, £40 on one singular premium tank, which is why they're probably better players because they've basically played for a little longer. But also, you'll probably see that the funny thing is Wargaming didn't actually release the win rate of the NM116, so there's always that. I don't know what it'll be, but I'm expecting it's quite high. Then we've also got Metal Slug collaboration. It's never come up internally, but it could be a fun collaboration. So they're not writing that off the cards. Can we get non-guided rockets for Era 1? I'm not against it, but Era 1 tanks are not allowed to have rockets right now, but it's something we can look into. Will the next season be interesting? No hints, but we go through a lot of planning for seasons. Get excited. There will be fun things coming. So don't know what that'll be, but okay. I'm putting a lot of hype on there. What about +1, -1 permanently in World War II? We're planning on running some different form of +1, -1 that you might enjoy and benefit from. So maybe they'll just introduce like some sort of kind of on the weekends they'll release +1, -1, and then in the week it'll be +2, -2, basically due to demand. Maybe that'll be a good idea, but we'll have to wait and see. Can we get increase in silver earnings in World War II? No plans to increase the base earnings for tank in World War II, but we do run events, and I completely agree. There's usually a pretty decent amount of silver in World War II if you play during the events, and there's been a lot of them. I think they've realised that Cold War is basically a way of people farming a ton of credits, and then they jump back onto World War II, so yeah, there's always that. And then, of course, Wargaming have released that there will be a new tank, or new tanks, 3 of them, coming into Era 2 of Cold War as well. Of course, you can see them below the Chinese light tanks here, or at least like the equivalent to Chinese light tanks, and you can see them down here. Let me know what you think these are going to be. Are they just going to simply come off of the Czechoslovakian tank line? I would expect maybe they do, but you know, with Wargaming, usually like you can get 2 tanks off of 1, so maybe we'll see what this is nearer the time. And of course, I will release any update news we have of this. Let me know in the comment section down below what you think these are going to be. And of course, if you already know what they are, try and feel free to let me know in the comment section down below. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully that covered all of the news, and if you are interested in not just console World of Tanks, then of course you can check out the PC channel that I'm currently running as well. All of the links will be in the description to various different things. If you want to check out more gameplay and tank reviews, they'll all be there as well. And I hope you have a fantastic rest of the weekend. I hope you join me back in the next video, and I'll see you there. Goodbye.